I'd like to ask Tom Owens, who's a longtime friend of our honoree for the evening, to join me up here on stage. Tom is the Vice President of Real Estate for Cinemark, and as he's coming up here, I don't know if you remember last year, but it was, Tom, you purchased a horse, didn't you? Yeah, but we had a horse. We had a horse. Julie had a horse, and Tom bought it. And from what I am told, he gave it back to Julie that evening because he couldn't get it back in the back of the smart car or something like that. And we actually aren't quite sure where the heck that horse is now. We think it's at Happy Hill Farm Academy down there, Granbury, with Ed Shipman and all the fine folks at Happy Hill. Hopefully. We think the horse is down there. We may be running in Lone Star Park. We have no idea. But somewhere out there, there's a horse that this man abandoned. This callous, heartless hero. Ladies and gentlemen, Tom, come on up, sir. Thank you.
Jody, I think you forgot to mention there was alcohol involved.
Oh, yeah, a little bit, yeah.
Actually, my wife, who's here tonight, took the news in great stride. I called her. I said, we bought a horse. She's just so logical. She goes, we're going to need a bigger pooper scooter. Anyway, with that, I'll just segue over to Steve. I've known Steve for 25 years, and he's been a dear friend of mine for a long time. And, I got asked by a bunch of people, what are you going to talk about tonight? Is this going to be a roast, or are you going to be nice? And I can tell you honestly that if I did a roast, and anybody that's known Steve for about an hour and a half could probably contribute to that roast, so we'd have a great time. But, that wouldn't tell anything about the man and what's in his heart. And, it wouldn't even be embarrassing to Steve. What's embarrassing to Steve is to expose Steve, unfortunately, what we're going to have to talk to about tonight is just how big your heart is and where your heart is. The Bible mentions that when people do their charitable deeds, don't sound your own trumpet. Well, we're here to trumpet for Steve tonight because he would never do his own trumpeting. A little background on Steve's business career. I think a lot of people know he started with Deloitte & Touche, was there for about 8 years, and he stumbled into Cinemark one day, and we were having a meeting. Leroy was asking him a lot of questions, and the guys from Deloitte were giving him typical, kind of Deloitte kind of answers. And every time he'd look at Steve, he'd ask a question, Steve would just common sense, good or bad, he'd just give him no spin kind of answer. So Leroy knew that he wanted Steve on board, so he offered Steve a job. Steve became the first CFO at Cinemark. It was actually the first time Leroy had ever had a CFO, so we'd sit in meetings with bankers and he'd introduce Steve as his bookkeeper, so it took Leroy about a year to get that one down. But he worked with us for about 8 years, put together the first bank financing, first acquisitions, really kind of set the foundation for the company. Then one day he got a call, and the call said, would you like to move to San Diego and form a golf course company? Now, to Steve, that's nirvana. So Steve went out there, formed a very successful golf course company, and then returned back to Dallas looking for something to do. And I guess I don't know what it is about the theater business, but when you get in it, just is in your blood, and he just got right back into it. And he formed Silver Cinemas, and then from there he moved over to Starplex. And in the short time that he's had Starplex, they've gotten up to about 225 screens. And the company's just done real well in a short period of time under Steve's leadership. But with Steve, it's really not about, I've got 225, screens or whatever. It's really about the people that he works with and the people that he builds. And let's roll that video. And this is some of the most important people that Steve has run into in the theater business. And they want to talk a little bit about Steve's achievements.
Congratulations, Steve. This honor couldn't go to a more deserving man. Let me tell you the most fondest memory I have of Steve. He walks into my theater and pretends to be a customer, walks up to the concession stand and orders a small drink and a small popcorn. My concessionist upsells him, as he should, and Steve reaches into his pocket and hands him a $20 bill for doing his job. You should have seen the look on my employee's face. It was awesome, just like Steve. Thanks again, Steve. You deserve this.
Congratulations, Steve, on being Texan of the Year. We really appreciate your participation with the fundraiser for Car for Caden. It's really inspirational for the staff to see a CEO involved in this type of event. Thanks for all your help, and it's always a pleasure working with you.
Congratulations, Steve. I'm Emily from Starplex in Forney. I just want to thank you so much for letting us be a part of the variety for Car for Caden. I had the best experience doing that with him. That family deserved it very much, and you're an amazing guy for letting us experience that with you and with them. They deserved everything they got, and thank you so much. Congratulations.
Hi, my name is Annie Devine, and I'd just like to say congratulations, Steve. You're a really great guy, and I'm very proud to be working for Starplex Cinemas. Working at Starplex has been a great experience. I've gotten a lot of knowledge from everyone I've worked with, and I really enjoyed doing Car for Caden. I've had a great time, and once again, congratulations.
Hello, Steve. This is KJ Fairbrother reporting. You might know me as Woody, but I really enjoyed doing the skits for Dallas Morning News, and congratulations on your award.
I say Brian Clark. I work over at Starplex 40. When I was down there one morning, coming from the projection booth, when I saw all the people there gathering around the car, giving that car to Caden, I kind of was amazed how much Starplex and you were willing to give to other people with disability. And I just want to say keep at giving everything, giving your heart to him. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jeff Folkedahl. I've been asked to say some nice things about Steve Holmes. I would like to sum up Steve Holmes' compassion with 2 words: swordfish and dolphins. And for that I'll have to explain. I met Steve Holmes 14 years ago at the opening of our Silver Cinemas 10 in Des Moines, Iowa. And I was the general manager, and I worked all day long, very hard, and at the end of the night everyone went to dinner and I was left to do the deposit and everything. And as I was getting ready to go home, Steve showed up with a swordfish dinner. Where Steve found swordfish in Des Moines, Iowa, I have no clue. But he thought of me, and that told me at that point what kind of man I was working for. 4 years ago, my niece was diagnosed with a handicap that she wasn't allowed to walk, or she couldn't walk. And our family tried many different methods to raise the money for a suggested therapy. It was called dolphin therapy, where the kids get in the water and they work with the dolphins, and it's supposed to increase their muscles and stuff like that. And we couldn't figure out a way to raise the money. So I asked Steve Holmes, how would you do it if you needed to? And out of the generosity of his heart, he found the donation money for us, and he donated it so that my niece could go to this dolphin therapy. She's been 3 times, and at the age of 7 she is now walking, and for that my family and everyone I know would like to thank Steve Holmes for his compassion and generosity.
It's funny how that money just magically appears coincidentally all the time. Can you imagine those kids that Steve has just given them the gift of giving? I mean, you walk into a Starplex theater, you run into that kid, you're a customer, you have a complaint. What do you think that kid's going to do? And that's the kind of environment that Steve's producing over there at Starplex. And in fact, that little secret's out too, because I think this week, I think it was just announced this week, the Dallas Morning News voted Starplex one of the top 100 companies to work for in the DFW area, so good job. My friend's a stealth giver, so, they do a lot of things that Ann and Steve have done over the years. Meals on Wheels, one of their favorite charities. They brought that over to Starplex. Now every Friday, or every other Friday, several Starplex people go and deliver meals. Steve just got a long history of doing things. Thanksgiving with the kids, before they ate, they go to a homeless shelter and feed people. But my best Steve Holmes story, and I'll end with this, is he had a friend, he knew a guy, I won't get any names, and the guy lost his job, and his daughter was a senior at a really expensive private school. So he called the school up, and he said, look, I'm going to pay the tuition, but I want you to call him and tell him he's been awarded a scholarship, just to save the guy's dignity. So, man, it's really kind of, you know a little bit about Steve, and some of this stuff is public, but, he's sort of like the guy next door that you don't know half of what he's doing. That's in his heart. Anyway, I'd like to, at this point, introduce Leroy and Candy, have them come up here and give the award to Steve. They're the ones that got Steve into the business, me into the business, and probably a lot of people in this room. Let's hear it for Leroy and Candy. call Steve up. Let me ask you a question real quick, though. Steve and I have worked with you for over 20 years, and out of the three of us, you're the only one with hair, so I'm just kind of wondering if there's means anything with that. Steve, come on up here, please.
Steve, you noticed that Tom spent a lot of time about where you came from, but he didn't tell everybody we found him under a bridge, washed his clothes in Austin. Margaret. No, this is a great honor for Steve, and it's an honor that's well deserved. And I think most of the people in this room know Steve well enough to know that. And for Debbie and I, we're just happy and proud to be part of Steve's family.